Android versus iOS design. Android design based on material design guidelines and iOS design based on human interface guidelines. Material design is a design language that Google developed in 2014. Material design uses more grid-based layouts, responsive animation, and transitions, padding, and depth effects such as lightning and shadows. By using material design guidelines, you can create design for multiple platforms. Material is the metaphor. Material design is inspired by the physical world and its textures, including how they reflect light and cast shadows. Material surfaces reimagine the mediums of paper and ink, like how the light will reflect on a piece of paper, how the shadow will come from it, and all of them have been used to make material design guidelines. Human interface design. Human interface design is design that focuses on human object interactions. There are 5 principles associated with human interface design: common knowledge, simple usage, provide feedback, forgive errors, and be appealing. App icons. If you are creating app icons for Android, then you can keep your icons transparent or you can put it in the box. You have freedom to do it. But if you are designing for iOS, then you have to create your icons into the box. As you can see on this screen, Android icons are transparent and in the box, but iOS icons are in the rounded box only. App bars. Our status bar comes first in Android. As you can see, the status bar of Android, the time on this is the right side. After that, the battery charging comes and the network is right aligned. Then the status bar of iOS is different. He shows the network first on the left, time show in the center, and battery charging appears on the right side. Android app bar. In Android, hamburger icon is coming first and the title text is coming after that. We can left align title text or center align, and in iOS app bar is called navigation bar. If you are designing in iOS, then you have to keep the navigation title text only in the center align. Tab bar. In Android, you can use this type of tab bar. Through this tab bar, the user can swipe and see different screens. Bottom bar. In Android, we can also show our main buttons through the bottom tab bar, or we can also show the sidebar through the hamburger. But if you are designing for iOS, then it is important to have a tab bar on your screen. And whatever our main call to action buttons will show through the tab bar only. So by following these guidelines, we have to make our designs. Navigation. In Android, you can show the navigation through the Android drawer menu, Android tab menu, or also show through the bottom tab bar. But in iOS, you will show the navigation through the tab bar only. App interface. As you can see in this Android screen, he has shown his main buttons through the tabs, in which the user can swipe the tabs and see the different screens and use the fab buttons in the end, bottom right. iOS. If you see the example of iOS, then he has used the bottom tab bar. He has placed a logo in the center, icon on the left side, different icon on the right side. When we create design for iOS, then we have to use the bottom tab bar to create our designs. And for Android, you can use the Android drawer menu, tabs, or bottom bar. This is the another example. In iOS, you can see that whatever the main buttons have placed in the bottom through tab bar, and in Android, the main buttons are placed inside the sidebar menu. Android. This is an example of an Instagram. As you can see on this screen, in Android, the main buttons have placed in the bottom bar, and in iOS, main buttons have been placed in the tab bar too. But the Android icons are little bit bold and their stroke is little heavy, but the icons of iOS are quite light. App bar versus navigation bar. In Android, we call it app bar, and in iOS, we call navigation bar. In Android, we can left align the title text of the app bar or center align. But if you are designing for iOS, then you have to use title text in the center, and you can right align your primary icon and left align your secondary icon. As you can see in this screen, different examples of Androids are given, that if you want to use drop down, then how to use it. If I want to show any icons or any text, so you can show it in this way. Same has given you in iOS example as well. If you have to show any drop down, subtitle text, tabs or icons, so you can show this way. Toolbar. In Android, we call it the bottom toolbar, and in iOS, we call it the toolbar. As you can see on this screen, Android icons are shown in the fill, and in iOS icons are shown in strokes. Second, in the Android bottom toolbar is shadow. In Android, any elements we can show it through a shadow. As you can see on this screen, there is a shadow in the app bar, but in iOS, the same thing is coming through the line. In Android, you can use depth shadow, and in iOS, you have to use flat design. Tab bar versus segmented controls. In Android, it is called tab, and in iOS, it is called segmented controls. In Android, as you can see how text are showing in the tabs, how are they appearing icons. If there are too many tabs, then how are they appearing? If there is an icon and text, then how to show it. But in iOS, you can either show it in text only or you can show it icons only. Buttons. The buttons that are in Android, how the normal buttons are visible. When a user presses that button, how to show it. So as you can see in it, shadow is coming, and disable button, how to show it. In iOS, the normal button is in the stroke. When a user press that button, it will be filled, but there is no shadow or depth like Android. And disable button, how to show it. Floating action button versus call to action button. The floating action button is called the fab button in the shortcut. In Android, we use floating action button in the bottom right and can also use it in vertical middle, something like this. And in iOS, we call floating action button to call to action button, which we use in the center, which is our primary button. When can we use this fab button? Whatever is the primary task of your screen, for that you can use the fab button. Like example, Gmail. If you look in the Gmail app, you will get a fab button in the bottom right, whose primary task is that you can make new email through it. If you want to show a primary task of the screen, then you can show through the fab button. Bottom sheet versus action sheet and activity views. You can use the bottom sheet to share something. Like you can see in this screen how to show a bottom sheet in Android with icons and text, and in iOS you can show something in this way, like how to show with text and how to show with icons and text. Dialog versus alert. In Android we call it dialogues, and in iOS we call it alert. Both of them have worked same, but both have different names. Like you can see in Android, in dialog box a little text is coming in it first, which is left aligned. After that there is some paragraph text. Some call to action buttons have been given below. One is primary button and other is secondary button. And likewise, if you see in iOS, then the title text in iOS is center aligned, and below that is the paragraph text, and in the bottom our call to action buttons are coming. Snack bar and toast versus alert. When you send an email, you get to see some such design, like a snack bar is coming from the bottom, which has text on the left side and the action button on the right side. We call it snack bar. And where only your message comes, we call it toast. And in iOS, it comes like an alert, so we call it alert. Checkbox versus checkmark. When we have to show multiple selection, then we use checkboxes. Because through the checkboxes, we can select multiple elements. If you want to show checkboxes in Android, then you can show in this way. You can left align checkboxes or right align. And in iOS, if you want to show multiple selection, then you can use the checkmark. iOS checkboxes comes in this circle, so we can design in this way. So we have to design in this way. Radio button versus checkmarks. If you want to see a single selection in Android, then you can show through the radio button. And in iOS, we can use the checkmark for single selection. You can show the checkmark left align or right align. Switches. We can use switches to turn on or off. Android switches looks in this way, and iOS switches looks in this way. Reorder and gripper. In Android it is called reorder, and in iOS we call it gripper. We use reorder to move any elements from one place to another. In Android, 4-line icons we call reorder, and in iOS the 3-line icons called gripper. Through the gripper we can move the elements very easily. Leave behind swipe action. In Android we call it leave behind, and in iOS it is called swipe action. You must have seen this type of example in Gmail. If you swipe left of any email listing, then some action buttons are coming. As you can see in Android, a shadow is coming inside after swiping it. And in iOS has flat design. If you want to have some action buttons are swiping, then you can use swipe action. Icons. In Android we use slightly bold heavy stroke icons, and in iOS we use light stroke icons. Typography. The system fonts are using in Android is Roboto and San Francisco in iOS. You can use any font for your brand, whether it is for Android or for iOS. Using these system fonts, Android and iOS have built their applications. Primary and secondary. How should you use primary and secondary button? If you are designing, then we can show the primary buttons for the user in the right side, and we can show the secondary buttons on the left side, because the user will get a little effort to click on the left side. Clicking on the right side is very easy for users. That's why you keep in mind when you design any application. And in the bottom, if you want to show two call to action buttons, then in the right you place your primary button, and in the left side you can place your secondary button, as you can see in this screen. So as you have seen, what are the differences of Android and iOS? So we have to make our designs by keeping these differences in mind.